Hi everyone, my name is Kristin Lamarra and I am currently an 8th grade math teacher for students with learning disabilities in Prince William County Schools. Um, Today we're going to discuss, well, I planned it, I taught it, but they didn't get it, and I feel like I live this every single day, and I'm coming up with new strategies to get a hold of my kids' attention and hope that they are successful with the topics that I present to them. Um, so first is your planned lesson. We all plan lessons. Some of our more veteran teachers may not write down their formal lessons that they plan, but they write in a plan book. For example, I have my plan book here, my teacher planner, and I teach 2 sections of math. I teach third and fourth period, so I usually just write it in the third period box and draw an arrow because I do the same thing in both classes. So for this example, on like a week ago Monday, I was doing a lesson on perfect squares and positive negative squares, and I had them practicing on the smartboard how to place the squares on the number line that were non-perfect squares. And then I wanted to have a perfect square competition. That was time to help them practice learning their perfect squares, and they were allowed to use a calculator for this. So that was my planned lesson, and it did not necessarily go the way that I wanted it to go. In my classroom, both third and fourth period, I have very different ability levels. My one class is higher, and the caveat is they have more behaviors. So even though cognitively they're capable of the material, I am constantly managing behaviors the whole entire class period. And then my second class, which is a little bit lower achieving, but their behavior is wonderful, it takes me a little bit longer to have them grasp the material because of their learning disabilities. So every day is a new day. Nothing ever goes the way that I want it to, but we still make it through to the end of the school year and they still take their SOL, and you hope that they're successful on it. So that particular day when I did the perfect square competition, the idea was for them to be timed, and they all had to be working on a team, and they would go up to the board one at a time and write the perfect squares all in order. And so one person per perfect square, and then they hand off the marker to their next person, and they would go up and write the next one, and whichever team could write all the perfect squares up to 400 first and get them correct won a piece of chocolate. So I was anticipating this taking maybe in a minute and a half to 2 minutes, but it took 7, and it took up the whole end of my class, so I wasn't able to close out my lesson and do my exit ticket. We had to work till the bell, and then I had to dismiss them. Homework for that night was on IXL, and it was objective F.14, and I made sure that the IXL objective that they were going to be working on was directly related to what we were doing in class. It is so important that whatever you do in class, if you're going to assign homework has to be directly related to what's going on in the classroom. Homework should not be an introduction to a new skill. So amongst all of your planned lessons and implemented lessons, there's also this experience of hidden curriculum. So hidden curriculum, according to Glossary of Ed Reform, is the unwritten or unofficial lessons and values that students learn at school. So we don't plan these things out, they just sort of happen. There was one specific day in mind that I remember a kid just feeling very defeated, didn't want to do anything in my class, and when I asked him why, he said it was because he was stupid and he didn't want to do it. So then I stopped my lesson for a brief moment just to talk to all of my students about how we need to have a growth mindset, we need to think positively, and we don't need to be telling ourselves negative things. So amongst my math lesson, I then had to turn into the motivator to try to keep these kids going so they don't give up on themselves. So that piece of social curriculum I had not even planned in my lesson, and I ended up having to teach a small social skills lesson that class period. Additionally, the hidden curriculum, I mean, every student sees things through a different lens, and it's all because they come from different cultures, they come from different backgrounds, they're all raised differently, and they will have a bias based on their morals and values, just as teachers and administrators do as well. So we never know exactly how they're perceiving us. I always make sure that my classroom environment is extremely positive. As you can see behind me, I have all of my Dr. Seuss. I have other motivational posters throughout the room because I want them to know that this is a welcoming and warm place for them to come and talk about things they need to talk about. If they're struggling with what we're doing in here, they can come to me and I can assist them however I can to make sure that they are successful. So some strategies for teaching students just in general, with keeping in mind, your lessons aren't going to go as planned, as always, and there will always be hidden things that might pop up that you may have to address, things that students may be perceiving that you don't even realize that they're perceiving. But when you're teaching, you should always make everything as visual as possible. Allow time for practice in class if it's a new skill. And again, homework should reflect the lesson. In math class, I always get the almighty, when will I use this again? So I try to, after we get the skill down, I try to relate it somehow to the real world. And I do this through project-based learning, which, again, Glossary of Ed Reform used as a strategy as well for teaching curriculum and hidden curriculum is project-based learning. This is a way for kids to be hands-on with the material that they just learned. They're able to show you what they know and what they're successful with and maybe where they need to grow a little bit without having to worry about sitting and taking a test. So also the almighty why, especially with math. I find that kids, if they know why they're doing it, they'll be more compliant with doing what you need them to do. If you're just teaching them and talking at them and making them take notes, they're not engaged, they're not interested. But the minute you connect it to a why and the minute you connect it to the real world, they are engaged, they are interested, they want to discuss it with you, they get excited about it. So the more I tell them why they need it and the more I connect it to how they're going to use it, the more engaged they are in my classroom. I have a lot of diverse learners in my room. I try to make instruction as differentiated as possible. Also, we have to remember as teachers that we are more than just teachers. We are leaders, we are motivators, and sometimes we are more of a parent to the kids than they have at home. So just remembering that there is that hidden curriculum built into our day and just being cognitive of it and sensitive to it and being okay that our planned lessons don't always go the way that we want, because we are here to support the kids and get them to be as engaged as possible in school and hope that they really, really love school when they leave. So that's my discussion on planned lessons and implemented lessons and the hidden curriculum. And I am okay if the kids don't get it at first. I'm okay if my lessons don't go just the way I want them every single day, because what matters to me is that these kids are successful and they're building a relationship with me and they want to learn math at the end of the day. All right, thanks guys, and I will see you soon.